Police in America are being attacked with accountability nationwide, and now we're forced to ask for the help and support of the public to help us get through these tough times. Officers are being attacked with criminal charges and lawsuits by members of the public that don't appreciate being protected and served to death. Many officers don't have the funds to pay for the high-dollar lawyers to defend them after they protect and serve you to death. And that's where the Fraternal Order of Pansies and your charitable contributions can help. The Fraternal Order of Pansies is the largest pansy union in the US with over 300,000 members, and our organization specializes in protecting bad cops that commit crimes while making sure that the good ones get fired. Because of donations like yours, the Fraternal Order of Pansies was recently able to support our police in Pennsylvania when 3 officers accidentally mag-dumped into a random car, killing an 8-year-old girl. Anti-police rhetoric caused the DA to file charges against our officers for their own actions instead of doing what they should have done, thanking them for their service and assisting with the cover-up. Now, 3 officers are having to face something that no police officer in America should ever have to face: accountability for their own actions. But we at the Fraternal Order of Pansies have vowed to stand by these officers that shot and killed an 8-year-old girl and put up whatever funds are necessary to make sure that these cops get away with murder. And this is just one of many cases where the Fraternal Order of Pansies is using your donations to protect criminal cops. Because of a growing trend of people aggressively recording our officers, more and more of our cops are getting caught breaking the law and abusing the public. We've done everything we can to push for legislation to destroy the Constitution and legalize our crimes, but it's just not enough. Our officers are still being attacked with accountability at a rate that our funds just can't keep up with, and that's why we're asking for your help. By signing up to give a monthly contribution to protect bad cops, you'll be sent an official certificate of membership.
I'm helping!
Along with a picture of an officer that got away with his crimes because of your donations. There are 3 levels that you can contribute at. If you donate $20 a month, we'll push down a grandma. If you donate $50 a month, we'll kick in a door without a warrant. And if you donate $100 a month, we'll kill one of your neighbors. Or you, if we accidentally bust into the wrong house again. We do that a lot. And while this may feel like contributing to a mafia or a terrorist organization, don't worry, we've made it legal. Please consider donating to the Fraternal Order of Pansies today, because what we stole from you through taxation and citations for your grass being too tall just isn't enough to cover all the legal fees to help cops get away with their crimes. The Fraternal Order of Pansies. We can get away with murder. You can help.
And we're going to make sure that we hold you accountable every time you stir the pot on our police officers.
Today we have the one and only Charlie Robinson, author of Controlled Demolition of the American Empire, with an amazing audiobook performance. Just saying.
From Dallas, Texas, this is Anarchast.
Greetings, demolishers. Welcome to Anarchast, your home for anarchy on the internet. I will be Patrick Smith. I don't know what I was just laughing my ass off at that intro the whole time. How are you today, sir? It's great to finally, you've been on the channel before, but this is my first time getting to talk to you here, I believe. So, welcome back. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me. Yeah, for those of you that bought Berwick's Controlled Demolition book, there's a little name at the end there. I'm on there at the bottom as well.
Hell yeah.
See me.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, and that audiobook is the best, man. We needed somebody with a big voice, We needed someone to make this book sound really important. And Thank God you were there.
The reviews are really good. I was happy with the audiobook reviews. One guy was like, he sounds like a robot. I was like, oh, damn. All right, well.
Can't make everybody happy.
Yeah, can't make. Yeah, so you co-wrote this book with Jeff Berwick 2.5-ish years ago. It's been out. A lot of people have read it. Probably a lot of this audience has already read it. We have not had you on yet to talk about it, and it's also kind of cool that it's been 2.5 years, because we're going to get to go into, well, how right were you? And
I know.
And so I guess like intro the book for the people that haven't read it. Tell us about it.
Yeah, so it came out of a phone conversation. It came out of a video conversation on Anarchast when I was on the first time to talk about my first book, The Octopus of Global Control. I got done doing the interview with Jeff. We wrapped up. We were still chit-chatting after we were done recording, and he said it's all coming down. And I was like, yeah. I mean, like, what do you mean in particular? And he's like, financial system, it's a house of cards, it's all coming down. I was like, yeah, it is. We talked about a bunch of things, and he said, I feel like, he's like, I'd really like to write a book. Would you be interested in working on a book with me? And I said, yeah, for sure. So he sent me over some ideas, and then, but the thing is that when he said it's all coming down, in my head, I'm thinking Building 7. I'm thinking like a controlled demolition. And he sent over some ideas, and they were really good. And I said, well, what if we adjusted this a little bit? What if we made it like a metaphor, like the way you would take down an actual building? And we use that to describe how you would take down the American empire. So the chapters are a rotting foundation, pre-weakening of the building, identifying the support columns, rigging the detonators, who wired the building, ringing the alarm bells, pushing down the plungers, and clearing the debris. And went through all of those steps, like how you would take down, like a 47-story steel and glass building in Lower Manhattan on the afternoon of September 11, 2001, as an example. You would rig it. And so we went about and we made that comparison. We talked about how if you're trying to create a one world government, and clearly these maniacs are, there's a problem when you have the last empire sort of standing in its way. And the best thing you can do in order to create this one world government is eliminate that last empire, to take it down however you can. And so we laid out the case for how they were going to do it. And it's interesting because, there's some aspects of the American empire that need to go away. We weren't necessarily saying that it was all a bad idea. I mean, there's clearly when 1,000 military bases around the world and all of this is unnecessary and horrifying. And so there were some aspects of it that would go away. And we made a comparison the way the Soviet Union broke up. Russia didn't go away. Mother Russia still remains, but those satellite countries that they had control over, those sort of went back and sort of had their own autonomy after that. And we thought about, well, it's not so much that the United States will come to an end. It's just that the oversized influence that America has around the world, the 1,000 military bases, the world's reserve currency, the petrodollar, all of these things, they go away. And when they go away, like the way a mountain climber gets stuck out on a snowy ledge, your body prioritizes where the blood flow needs to stay, in the center, right? And where your heart and your brain is. So you lose your fingertips and you lose your toes, and you're lucky to be alive. And you make that trade-off because it keeps you from freezing to death. So we feel like that's sort of the way forward for the United States. It loses its fingers and toes, but it remains in a weakened condition, just the way they want it, so that we can be overrun and folded into a one world government. That's basically the core of it.
Yeah, I'm just looking up the price of eggs right now as evidence of maybe one of the fingers falling off. It's getting a little nuts out there. I have chickens though, and it's so weird, man. Like, I am a city boy. I'm a computer nerd. I love technology. I love good, Wi-Fi and good cell signal, and that's just always been who I am. But like 2 years ago, we just bought some chickens and we put them in the backyard in the middle of the city, And we've had chickens for a year and a half, 2 years, and we have a steady supply of eggs, more than enough for the family. And again, just like with the big power outage that we had in Texas, a winter or two ago now, I forget when the last snow apocalypse was. We had done the work and prepped with a generator and fuel and, being able to jack the generator into the house when we needed it. Never thought I'd need it. Felt like it was a waste of money. Felt like the chickens were just an annoying, smelly waste of time and money in the backyard. Right. And then something goes wrong and you feel like a king. And I know I've told this story a bunch of times on the channel, but yeah, again, with the eggs, like the price of eggs changed. I wasn't aware. I had like a big omelet recently and, no big deal. So, there's something to
You're
this.
sitting on a printing press. You're like the new Federal Reserve.
I'm just making it rain eggs, What are it does pay to prep, and you don't, someone in the comment station just said it pays to prep, and you don't know it, and you feel like it doesn't pay. You feel like it costs to prep until something goes wrong, and then you feel like a king. But
And we goofed on those preppers for many, many years. Oh, you guys, your crazy ideas and and your doomsday prepper show on the History Channel and all that stuff. I for one would like to offer my apologies to the preppers. Okay, you were right. I was wrong. You might have been a little over the top, but you were definitely not incorrect in your assessment of where things were headed. And we owe you a debt of gratitude and a big fat apology and maybe even a kiss. So. But look, that's just where we are now, right? We're in a situation where we have fragile supply chains. We have insane ideas getting kicked around. We're going to get rid of gas stoves. It's like spinning the wheel of insanity, and then it like stops on like, oh, well, looks like we're outlawing gas stoves. This way, okay. It's
so random. I was like, oh, that's Yahtzee this week. Okay, we landed on gas stoves. This is so absurd. So going back to your audiobook, I've done several audiobooks. Let me think, like 6 or 7 at this point. So I'm not prolific or anything, but aside from doing audiobooks, I read a ton. I've read hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, maybe thousands of books. It's focused on philosophy mainly, but your book was so uniquely structured, and it was that structure you were talking about, where you make the analogy of demolishing a superstructure or a building to society and government and the empire that is America. And I thought it was super engaging, super clarifying, really easy to understand, super well done. And I'm not just bragging on it because I was involved. I legit enjoyed the book before I accepted doing the audiobook for you guys. We have somebody.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. We have somebody over in Odysee says that he has the book. And he says it had an amazing audiobook performance. Thank you, Moose. No, but credit to him. This guy writes like a freight train. Like he bangs out 350-page books, every year or two. I struggle to get 10 pages out, man. And I don't know what my issue is. But how do you do it?
I feel a duty and obligation to write about this stuff. I didn't. It's funny because the first book, the Octopus book, came out of a really simple, innocuous conversation with my mom, where I discovered some new conspiracy or something. I don't know. I was telling her, and she's like, "This is really interesting. It's fascinating, and you've got all this information, and you know about all these things." And she wasn't trying to be jerky or anything. She goes, "Well, what are you going to do with it? Like, what's the plan?" And I was like, I don't know. I didn't know I had to do anything with it, And so I started to think about, okay, well, what would I do? What's my role? I want to know that I contributed something. I want to know that I was sounding the alarm bells and doing my part. And I thought, well, I'm not going to make a movie or anything like that, but I could write. And so I decided I would just start writing and just be real quiet about it, not tell anyone, and just see how it felt. And because I didn't want to get like bogged down with like, hey man, how's that book coming that you said you were going to write? And then I'm like, well, I never finished it, So I didn't tell anyone. And after a while, after about halfway through, I realized I'm finishing this book. And then it became, I don't want to tell anyone because I'm afraid someone will tell me to stop, because I felt like I was onto something. And that's really where my drive came. I feel like I have to do whatever I can do to let people know what I'm seeing. I'm not trying to say I have it all figured out or that I know it all. Far from that. But I'm seeing things, and and these dots seem very obvious to me, and I'll have conversations with people and they don't even see the dots, let alone connect them. And I think, oh geez, we've got a lot of work to do here. So I'm assuming, that everybody sees this. And what I'm finding is that it's really not the case. So I feel like I have to do this. I feel like we have to talk about this. We have to get the word out, because when you're aware, I always think of it like a magician, right? When these politicians, the way they talk, and the IMF and the World Bank, when they do their presentations, they use these words, and and I feel like, if you go to see a magician and that the dove is in his back left pocket, and you watch him do this, and then you see him go for it with his other arm, and you know how the trick works. The trick has no power over you after that. And I thought, well, if we could just talk about these things in advance of them doing it, then they, and say, this is how it's going to roll out. They're going to do X, Y, and Z, and this is how we think they're going to play it. Then when it happens in a manner that's similar to that, you can go, oh,
I told you so.
I knew this was coming. Yeah, I told you. Yeah, I told you so. Yeah, I told you so for us. But for the other people that go, I just read about this. This is playing out exactly like they said it would. Oh my gosh, this is also fake. And once you take the power away from them, then they've got nothing. And so that's what, and Jeff is, nobody's really. I feel like Jeff has done this at a level that nobody else really has. He has this very likable way of explaining how screwed up the world is while laughing about it. And I always connected with that. So to me, he was the perfect guy to write the book with, because he sees things that I can't see, from being a Canadian, living in Mexico, running businesses, having hosting Anarchapulco, all these things. I love it, and I participate in all of it, but he knows things I don't know.
He does have a knack for casually strolling through a park with a dog talking about the end of the world, Yeah. It is fun.
Yeah, it is. And I have a similar dark sense of humor. And part of it comes from me wanting the reader to kind of hang in there through the bad parts, because it's going to get hairy. I want to make light of it or throw some funny comment in there so that you don't, you're not jumping off your roof or anything like that. So we have a similar lightness about it, but we would encourage people to not mistake that for being carefree or not feeling deeply about this situation. We take the situation very seriously, but we also recognize that if you're just doom and gloom about it, you're going to lose a lot of people. And so we tried to package this book up in a way that made sense, was logical, really kind of took a forward look at where things are going and extrapolated out, based on this, where do you think we're going to go? Not really guessing, but more educated guesses, and try to say, and also you kind of have to think like a psychopath too, to understand what these guys are doing. So you go, if I were Klaus Schwab or David Rockefeller, how would I be thinking? The best way to infiltrate these countries would actually be to do it through the health organizations. Oh, yeah. You start to think about it like a lunatic. And so that's kind of where we came from with this, which is we need to sound the alarm bells and let people know in a way that's informative and logical, reasonable. Yeah, a little scary, but we'll sort of paint over that with some humor, and then release it the day before the Friday before the elections in 2020. Yeah.
So I don't want to spoil your talk, because you are speaking at Anarchapulco on this book, on this topic, right? But maybe we can just go through. Can you pick I don't know how to say this, one or two of the pillars, and walk us through the full process of demolishing that pillar?
Let's talk about one that's called pre-weakening of the building. And this is an interesting concept, because when you're dealing with an actual building, they'll go through the demolition teams will go through and remove certain braces, braces that keep the building in place. They'll cut them in different spots, and they'll cut them everywhere. The building will still be upright. The building will still look like it's fine. But just those additional support columns will be blown out so that you can use less explosives. It's cheaper for you to take it down, and it's a little bit more predictable because without all these supporting columns, you have a better idea of how it's going to fall. So we look at the idea of pre-weakening the building and then drawing a comparison to a foreign policy, and you look at something like NAFTA, the North American Free Trade Agreement, right? And that was a Clinton moment, right? That was in his presidency. And basically that was when Ross Perot was running in 92, and he said, you're going to hear the giant sucking sound is going to be all of the jobs in industries and factories getting sucked out of America. And he was, of course, correct on that assessment, and that was done by design. But that pre-weakening of the building is like lighting a 30-year fuse on America, on the economy. And it's those factories and those jobs sort of slowly started moving out and going to Mexico and going to China and going to Vietnam and Bangladesh and all these places where there were fewer regulations and cheaper labor. And then you watch the Rust Belt sort of slowly disintegrate. You watch Detroit kind of fall apart. You watch Flint, Michigan not have clean drinking water. You watch these whole residential areas just get boarded up and become infested with drugs, and if there were even people even around, and you go, we knew that would happen. So why was it done? It was done as a design feature to get rid of the economy, to outsource that and to change the way America operates, to be more of a service economy as opposed to a manufacturing economy. Well, what does that do? Well, it really screws your country up. When you do that, it really does. And so the outcome was predictable. But again, it's not going to take the whole country down right then. It's just going to be it's like kicking one of the legs off of your chair, just eventually the whole thing is just going to be too unstable. So we talk about globalization as being a part of that. And that of course is NAFTA. We talk about the rise of China, and that I think is tied into the globalization component to it. So it's a weakening of America while you're rising, you're elevating a superpower. We talk about the Thucydides trap, which is the Greek concept of when a existing empire faces an up and coming empire. It's happened 16 times in recorded history, and in 12 of the 16 times it's led to war. So that's not good when 75% of the time you can expect a war, and China's just about to catch America, and America's very paranoid about that. And so we say, well, okay, is this destined to happen? Is this just the psychology of human beings? Are we doing, what? So we sort of explored that concept of, we're really coming towards this. And I would say that there's not even an appetite to stop it. There seems to be a desire for there to be a third world war. So, so pre-weakening, it even involves things that aren't necessarily like measurable in dollars and cents, but something like the private prison industry, a stain on humanity.
This part of the book
what
is
does
really
that
good.
do?
I got angry enough doing that part of the book that I had to stop and do it a couple times. Just it's really, I didn't know how bad it was. But please go ahead. Sorry to interrupt.
God. No, I mean it's frustrating that the idea that you can monetize freedom, that you can have these private prison industries that, again, same time, this was H.W. Bush and Clinton working on this. H.W. Bush got it revved up in the 80s. Then he wasn't there in the mid 90s to get it passed through. That was Clinton's job. And so this was bipartisan insanity going on here. And the establishment of the private prison industry to take those companies and have states sign deals with them that guarantees occupancy, which means that we promise we're going to stuff enough people in your jails that you'll be profitable. Sometimes the threshold was 80%, sometimes 90%. In some cases for the states, it was 100% occupancy. Now, what a business model, right? You take that and you go, I got a prison with 100% occupancy, and they're tied up. They're going to be, it's not the Holiday Inn. They're not leaving after 3 days.
Guaranteed customer base. Yeah.
Guaranteed customers ain't going anywhere, right? So we've got this. I wonder if I could go to Wall Street and raise money and say, listen, I've got one private prison. Wouldn't it be great if I had 40? And they go, yes, let's take you public. And so now you have these companies that are trading on the stock exchange, monetizing human freedom. And so again, that goes back to pre-weakening of the building. It's pre-weakening us culturally.
And like, you know, if you want to get rid of the drug laws that are providing most of the bodies for those prisons, I wonder who might lobby against that. You know, I wonder who might lobby against the freedom because it's towards their profit. Sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
Yeah. So it does something, you know, besides putting these people in prison for that one particular individual, it's a cascading effect, you know. The wife with the kids now has to cover this on their own. You know, they're the only income source now. I got to raise 3 kids, and I thought you were going to be here, and now you're gone on some bullshit charge, and you know, and you're doing 8 years for possession of crack cocaine, and you get, you know, your sentence is 12 times longer than if it was powdered cocaine because that's a white drug, you know. And you see this and you go, what does that do to the fabric of society? You know, what does that do to those kids? What does it do to the mom who's just tired? You know, what does it do to the workforce? You know, so everything is affected by this, and it hollows you out socially. And when you're hollowed out socially and you lose your core values, you're easier to destroy. You know, you're just a rotting door that can just be kicked in at some point when the government decides they want, you know, this whole experiment is over. So it's a pre-weakening, you know, metaphorically of the physical building, but for us as America, it's a pre-weakening spiritually and socially and economically, and just the way we view the world, and the rise of cheap products. And now we're all just buying $400 TVs from China because globalization, but we can't make them here. And you know, it affects everything, but it's not going to take it down all at once. You need a variety of factors, and you need ultimately to rig the place with explosives and rig it with detonators and take it down. And so we move on to that, as you know, I'll do 2 of these. We move on to rigging the detonators, and that's where we're talking about central banks. We're talking about quantitative easing. We're talking about printing a ton of fiat dollars to diminish the, you know, inflate the money supply and diminish the value of currencies. That is, I mean, I would suggest that bankers are the most dangerous people in the world. And what they have done to this country is that they are rigging it with detonators. It's a debt bomb, you know. That's just what it's just different than a physical bomb, but it's going to go off and take everything down at the same, you know, just like an explosives. And we talk about never-ending wars. And again, money flowing into that, psychologically damaged people coming back that have seen some things are disheartened with the system, get called domestic terrorists when they come back because those people are very good with guns and explosives. It's like, yeah, you trained them. You sent them overseas. Of course they are. You had them in your military. What do you think? They just forgot all that stuff when they got back? So, you know, demonize veterans, which is wild, make the money supply worthless, demoralize people, make them feel like they're never going to get rich. They can try, you know, they can watch this on TV, but it's just not happening for them because their paycheck just doesn't go as far as it used to. But there's just an interesting thing in America, this psychology that Americans believe that they're just like one lucky move away from being a millionaire themselves. So they have this fantasy. They don't want to like demonize the millionaire class too much because in their mind, they're just about to be one, whether they have a path towards that or not.
I don't know. I think I was the generation after that. Like I never felt the American dream. And I feel like now we've two generations after me, you know, we're in the Zers now. And I can't even imagine that they've ever even felt any kind of sunlight from any kind of American dream with some kind of promise of prosperity if only you work hard enough. Like I don't know.
It seems like such an obvious scam. But you know,
I'm trying to poke holes in the whole premise here. Like, okay, So let me
Yeah.
ask you this kind of reverse question. So
Okay.
what areas have not been weakened? What are there any areas that are either, the same or stronger than they were 10 years ago, 20 years ago?
Well,
and
I'd say
I'm
that
sitting here trying to answer that question and coming up blank. So I'm just curious if you have any thoughts, like
I think that
family
there's just
weaker, family weaker, banking fucked,
Yeah.
all kinds of money effed, property values effed, relationship between men and women effed,
The only advance I can think of
public
is
school has destroyed everything.
Yeah.
I'm just going down the list.
Information.
Yeah. Okay. Go ahead.
The speed of information has improved. Now,
Yeah.
Conversely, the quality of information has degenerated too. So it's not necessarily that you're getting like the best quality information all the time at lightning fast speeds. But we do currently have the ability to access a ton of information that we used to have to get into the libraries to do. So I would say, and though I never have much good to say about smartphones. It is you do have a computer in your pocket, so you can kind of look things up. You have access to this information now. Whether people choose to use that information or go and look for it, or if they're just playing video games, that's another story. But we do. I don't know. I mean, it's hard to find anything that's improved. I would say that our skepticism level, I think, has increased.
That is a good thing.
The board with.
Yes, a lot less people trust the medical establishment and the science establishment, which is good. They're questioning.
You know what?
Yep.
But I would give it all back if they didn't have a reason to. I would give it all back if they weren't questioning the medical institution because they weren't getting sick from injections, or they weren't getting cancers at an alarming rate or anything. I mean, the medical industry is so unbelievably dirty and corrupt. And we talk about that in the book, and we talk about the lawsuits that they've settled. And I think that one thing that really all of us in this alternative media anarchist community benefited from with regard to the COVID story was that we knew that the pharmaceutical industry was dirty before COVID. So, and we knew that the shots were dangerous, and we knew that there were real questions about this group of people. They were interested in making a lot of money, and the safeguards had come off. We knew about the VAERS court creation in 1986. So we knew that there were big problems with these shots, and we knew there was no accountability. So when COVID came around, we were early. We were saying, watch out for the shots. We know they're going to push them. We know there'll be no responsibility. They'll lie and tell you whatever they need to tell you to take them, but be careful. So we were early in that regard, as opposed, but I think right now,
a healthy distrust of government corrects your view on so much that happens in reality right now. Like, oh, okay, so the pharmaceuticals got a new drug out. Okay, did the government have anything to do with it? Is the government suggesting I take it? But like all these questions, if the answer is yes, you're like, maybe I'll wait a little bit, and that's all I did over the past several years. And now all the shit that we're finding out about now, I'm like, oh, okay, well, there you go. There's another feather in the cap of mistrusting government.
Yeah. And what does it hurt to ask just a few before you purchased a car? You would ask a few questions before you're injecting. It's not unreasonable or disrespectful of you to have questions, to ask questions about these things. In fact, it's your duty and obligation to do so. So we all have to do that. And so there's a lot of people that now are aware that they need to ask those questions the next time around because they didn't during COVID. Yeah, and they're starting to realize that so it's much like after 9/11, it woke up a segment of the population to, this story doesn't add up and there's a real big problem here. Well, COVID came along, and now we've got a new generation of people that are going to it might even be a couple years from now, they'll go, that whole Fauci story just didn't make any sense now that I think about it, and the lab and the bats, and it seems like that seems like the conspiracy theory, if I'm being totally honest,
I said it a year and a half ago. I said it a year and a half ago. The establishment has discovered a new business model. They scare the shit out of people over a virus that they may or may not have had a hand in creating, let's say. And and then they profit. And so you think they're only going to do that once? You think they're never going to reuse this business model? No, come on. Like, it's only a matter of time. They're going to do it again. And hopefully, like you say, people are going to be more awake to it this time, at least. Man, Oh God. I need to have Larkin on again to cheer me up and to white pill me, because I've been really doomer lately. I was joking with a friend that I think is in the audience right now. I was like, man, I don't think black pill describes me well enough. I'm almost like at the void pill stage. I'm just like, I'm just mired in this, like, this hopelessness. Like, I don't see any way that this turns around. I don't see this correcting, at least not without going through a lot more really, really bad times first. And I'm just worried about my kids and my family. And yeah, what do you think?
Well,
are you void pilled like me, or are you feeling better about it?
It's kind of a mixture, because this is the way Jeff and I ended the book, and I'm not giving away any big secrets with this. And is that we kind of took people back to the December 26, 2004, Banda Aceh, Indonesia, right? People woke up that morning and they walked out to the beach, a beach where they had been, either if they lived there, they'd been there their whole lives, or if they were tourists, they'd been there the last week or so, and they go, there's no water. Where'd all the water go? You know, it just receded, right? And so people were walking out to finding starfish that were now on land and not covered with water, and taking pictures and doing all that stuff. But the people that recognized what that meant, they immediately went to higher ground. And also instinctively, the animals stampeded to higher ground as well, because they knew that when that water went out, it was building into a tsunami that was going to be coming in. So we're at a point now where you don't really have a whole lot of time to sound the alarm or have that argument with the guy on the beach, trying to explain to him, the guy who's going, well, actually, the water is just receding. There's no time to argue with those people. You need to get yourself, you need to get the people close to you and the people that will listen to you to higher ground, okay? Because it's coming. That's what's coming. So am I black-pilled? I'm black-pilled in the sense that what is coming, I think, is unstoppable. There is hope and optimism for the people that recognize this early. They can maneuver, make plans accordingly, and get out of the way. You're still going to be impacted. We're all going to be impacted by this. There's no way to get around that, but you minimize it. So you're not getting it directly head on. Maybe that's you got informed about the banking system and said, I got to get my money out of the bank. This place looks like a house of cards. Maybe you were buying gold and silvers, and maybe it's something financial planning wise that you did. Maybe it's physically. Maybe you physically moved yourself to a different jurisdiction or a different country that's more in line with your beliefs, or you got your kids out of government schools and you started, you've got to do something. You can't be an observer anymore. It's over. You've got to make some decisions and then put them into action and start planning and start doing things now. You're going to be early, so you're going to look crazy, but you're going to be right in the end. And those people that were laughing at you will be wishing that they were you in the future. And I don't want that to happen. And I'm not wishing this on people. And I'm not trying to like put it out in the universe or anything like that. But like, this is just like an extrapolation from where we are, where we're headed, who's in charge, who's driving this clown car, what do they want? And are we, who's going to stand up to them? If they get what they want, we're in real trouble. So plan accordingly and do what you can to get out of the way. So, but don't waste your time and don't waste your energy with people that just want to argue with you about this stuff, because it's just too late.
You
just have to prioritize your energy.
It does feel a little crazy. Like it felt crazy when I spent, thousands of dollars on a generator and gasoline storage. It felt really stupid when I put chickens in my backyard in the middle of the city. But I mean, both of those have paid off. It's amazing. And so now the question is, well, how far do we go? What's the appropriate, how far down the prepper path do we need to go before we actually are crazy, because there is a line there, believe me, right? So like,
for sure, I think you need that ideology first. You need a healthy paranoia or a healthy respect for trusting your instincts. Like, you see where we're going, and you're right in seeing it. All the people that are watching or listening to this, you're going, this is crazy. We're heading down a really dark path. Trust your instincts. You're correct. What you're seeing is right. They're going to tell you that you're nuts, that you're not seeing this, but you are. You see where things are going, you know? The media is there to lie to you, keep you in a place where you're the last person to figure it out, you know? So this, but this is, the good news is there's still time to make moves. There's still time to get yourself out of the way. So take advantage of it while it's relatively normal, whatever normal is these days.
All right, so we have a few minutes to take a few questions here. So last call for questions. If you have any for Mr. Charlie Robinson here, get him in now. He will be speaking at Anarchapulco on day one, right? I think all the cool people are speaking day one. You can quote me on that. So are you gonna? What's your plan? Are you doing any workshops as well, or are you kind of speaking about the concept?
But
okay,
I'm not doing any workshops, but I gotta like. Can I just read off the lineup for Anarchapulco? Because it's pretty awesome.
Sure.
The first day, it's Jeff does his welcome thing where he talks to everybody. Chris Horlacher, then I'm going next. Mark Passio, Jeff Berwick again, you, Dan Dix, Max Egan, Larkin Rose, and wrapping up with Ron Paul.
Dude, day one is amazing.
Dude, that's a lineup right there.
I am so there all day. I can't wait. It's going to be great. Yep.
I'm glad I'm speaking early so I can go sit in the audience and watch.
Hell yeah. And then the rest of the time, let me know. We'll hang out.
For sure.
It'll be awesome.
For sure. I'm excited. I'm excited to be there. I'm excited for the event. I'm excited to connect with the crowd, because the crowd is it's just such a great place to network and get to, I always leave feeling like two ways. I'm sad that I'm leaving, but I'm really inspired because I feel like I'm meeting all these people that are so that have like great ideas and they're putting them into action, and I just go, yeah, people are doing this stuff. This is fantastic. You feel like it's not happening, and then you go there and you see these people and you meet them and you go, holy shit, I better step it up.
Dude, I hate leaving my house so bad. I hate leaving my house so bad. I hate traveling even more, especially on planes. And so I really dread going, and I drag my feet getting packed and planned and all that stuff. But man, I remember the last 2 times I got there, as soon as I hit the hotel, the event, and I just looked around and I'm surrounded by a bunch of anarchist free people that don't want to control me. And I'm like, wow, it was all worth it. Like, let's go. Let's go.
It's inspiring. And I'm appreciative to Jeff for doing it. I just think it's such a great idea for a conference, but I really am glad that we were able to work on this book together. It meant a lot to me. It was a #1 bestseller in the United States and in Australia, and we appreciate everybody that bought it. And we hope that you enjoyed it. And I'm
Controlled Demolition hit #1.
Yep,
I didn't know that. That's awesome.
On election day.
That's
we
awesome.
put it out on the Friday before, and on election day, that Tuesday, it was #1 in US and Canada. And we were and it got as high as, check this out. It got as high as number 52 on Amazon. And the book that was right in front of us was 1984. I was like, I just want to get one more notch up. Just to be ahead of 1984. It was one of those dumb things that I was thinking. So we were cracking it. Yeah.
Well, congratulations. Quite an accomplishment.
Thank you, man.
So we got a couple questions. Ram Champa asks, what's the main culprit? Can you is there one thing that's doing most of the damage right now? Or is it really just an attack from all sides?
It's really, it's hard to put my finger on one thing, but I would say that if you wanted to just talk about an industry, the non-governmental organization industry is really at work destroying this world. That includes the United Nations, that includes the World Economic Forum, the Trilateral Commission, Council on Foreign Relations. These groups right there, if you wanted me to just pick one, that if I could wave a magic wand and make things a lot better, it would be to get rid of all of those groups. Rockefeller Foundation, Carnegie, these groups, and the pooling of resources and power and assets into these groups that are disguised as quasi charities is super dangerous. And I don't think the general public quite realizes the amount of influence. They are the ones running the politicians to a certain extent. In fact, some of them are made up of politicians. So there's a whole lot of overlapping interests, and you get the feeling that their mission statements are never really what they're doing, that they're always saying, we're spreading goodwill and fortune around the world or whatever. And it's like, as their regime changing some poor African country, so be very wary of those and keep your eyes on them. And when you see reports and policies coming from them, then that's as Catherine Austin Fitts calls it, Mr. Global.
W.O. Cassidy asks, what do you consider the most important bartering item for a shit hits the fan event?
Silver.
Really? Yeah. All right.
Yeah. I just because it comes in so many different denominations, a size amount, as opposed to like gold, where you've got like a gold coin. I think it's tougher. But I would say this, if we're talking about non-tangible items, skills, like having a skill that for bartering,
tools.
If you're really good at something, if you have tools, like if it were up to me if my car broke down and I had to fix my car, I would be walking everywhere. It would be awful, right? So a guy who's a mechanic has a lot of value, so whatever your skill set is, don't forget to, maybe now is the time to brush up on some things, but if you're talking about physical, like tangible assets, things like, like I hate to sound like, damn, we sound like the preppers, but it's like
they were right.
They're going to outlaw bullets at some point. They're going to outlaw bullets. That, silver has been worth something for a while because it has a cost to be pulled out of the ground and mined and minted and all of that. There's sunk costs in that. So it's obviously been undervalued and suppressed by the Fed. So you don't know if there's even a potential upside. Not that I'm licensed to give financial advice or anything, but at the bare minimum, it's a good place to at least trade out some of your Federal Reserve notes for something that has actual value, even if it does nothing, even if it never goes up, it just stays there. So I'm in favor of diversifying out of just being all in one bank account or one currency or whatever. Like the more you can do to sort of split your risk, because I don't know why anyone would trust the American financial banking system when we have as much debt as we have. I think that's crazy. I think that we're so ripe for a financial, robbery, for lack of a better word. You've just got to be thinking, you've got to be a little bit paranoid and get your money out of the bank account, for God's sake.
Here's my prepper tangent.
That just seems
like I think people should be investing in communications equipment. Like short range, medium range communication equipment. I think that'll be the difference between you having agency in a shit hits the fan scenario and you being at the mercy of finding somebody who has communications. Like being able to network, having a pre-existing network of people that you can talk to and contact. And I found, at least in Texas, it's probably different in other states, but in Texas, you really have to reach out to all the Republicans, because those are the ham radio nerds that are out there. And they're building these networks, and you kind of have to tiptoe a little bit. Otherwise, you won't really get into the networks that you need to get into. But I think it's going to be more important than people think about. Like, I think it's important. Mach1 asks, is this guy James Freeman? No, sir. This is Charlie Robinson. James Freeman is the guy that made the intro video that was hilarious. Which, by the way, I'm co-hosting a show with him tomorrow over on our Disenthrall channel. It's going to be an interesting show. It's going to be me bringing the sort of moral philosophy to the discussion, a lawyer who is currently in the process of becoming an anarchist because he has tried and fought for freedom in the courts for long enough to realize that there's no freedom to be found there. And then it's going to be James Freeman will be on the show shit posting it up as he usually does. So
Nice.
definitely check us out on Disenthrall tomorrow. One more question. Gypsy Tree asks, will they be successful with the introduction of CBDC? That's the Killshot IMO. What's the CBDC? I don't know what that means.
The CBDC,
Yeah.
the central bank digital currencies. Yeah.
Oh,
This is the hill to die on, as far as I'm concerned. I think that if they have the ability to walk everybody into a programmable digital currency that can be set with different parameters that can make it, Patrick, the Christmas spending numbers just came out today, and they were down. They were really down. They were down quite a bit. In order to boost the economy, we have set your central bank digital currency, your Fed coin, to expire in 90 days. So get to spending, and now you can't save. Now, and that sounds crazy, and it sounds like, fantasy and everything. Look, they have the ability to do that with these central bank digital currencies. And if you give them the option to do it, they'll do it. When have they ever stopped? You know what I mean? So we're at a point where we really have to be careful about this. I'm all for crypto, Bitcoin and Monero, and I'm interested in that, and I fully recognize that they're trying to lump those all in together and just call it crypto and sell these CBDCs to the general public as, oh, it's just crypto, Well, it's not just crypto. It's the end of financial sovereignty. It's the end of any sort of privacy. They can track every I know they can track a lot of it now, but they can track every purchase you make. They can set it to only work in the company stores, meaning the companies that are connected to the World Economic Forum, as an example, or the United Nations partners. And they can watch you whenever you buy anything. And they can just disable your wallet whenever they want to. If you get on the wrong side, maybe your maybe you said something about the government on Twitter and they don't like it. And so now guess what? You're locked out of your bank account. Good luck with that. That's what they want. They want that level of control. And it sounds crazy, but look, that's where they're going.
It's absolutely true. It's so obvious too. And it's the technology itself, a centralized government owned and operated controllable crypto coin is fucking pointless. Like, that's just PayPal and the current banking system. Like, PayPal and your current bank is going to outperform Bitcoin all day, every day right now, as long as you don't mind being spied on and having your account being able to be frozen by the government anytime they want. That already exists. It's already fiat. Now how are they going to sell a government crypto coin that's just a worse version of what they already have? You're not getting any more privacy with it. You're not getting any more security against account freezes with it. I mean, I don't know. It doesn't make any sense to me.
Since it costs them nothing to make,
then
they can offer incentives to get you in. Hey, listen, change over your US dollars to these US digital dollars, and we'll give you 3-to-1. But that offer expires in 30 days. Then it goes down to 1-to-1. Then it goes down to 50 cents. Then it goes, so it's like, oh, I better get in on it now. Oh, I have an opportunity to 3x my bank account real quick. Costs them nothing.
You're right. I hadn't thought about that.
So
that's even more terrifying. Jesus.
Yeah. And of course, the universal basic income would be tied to that. It'd be payable that way. So you got to sign up for that. But why wouldn't you sign up? It's free money, right? It's just free money. Oh. So that maybe only works like food stamps, where you can't buy alcohol or cigarettes, or you can't buy you certainly can't buy anything healthy. It only works at McDonald's and Wendy's. I mean, you have to allow yourself to go to the worst possible place.
Void pilling intensifying. Oh God.
So that's why I say, like, if it's like, there's a million things that they're doing, and some of them are really horrible and some of them are just annoying. But if you want to pick one, like the hill to die on, in my opinion, it's central bank digital currencies. I just think that once they normalize that, it is so diabolical that we're almost at it's almost over for us. We're really going to be going back to like trading squirrel pelts with each other. That's if we're allowed to do that. So we can't allow a central bank digital currency to come into existence. We have to stand up to that. And if we do, then we've got a chance. So I'm optimistic that enough people will turn that down that it won't work, but you never know.
And surveillance like you have never imagined is coming. Surveillance where they don't even have to have access to your stuff because they can just point an AI that's trained on metadata at the metadata that they have on your life. Oh God, we got to end the show. This is terrible.
But we're gonna make enough people aware of it so that they can't pull this on you, because you're gonna see it coming a mile away. And so that's where the optimism is that the more we talk about it, the more we explain it to people in a reasonable and logical way, then the greater the chances are that they will be unable to pull this off, because we'll be waiting, watching for them.
All right, so I guess I need to get even louder. Let's do it. We can be louder about it. And you're about to talk a lot about this at Anarchapulco. So everybody, if you haven't bought your tickets yet, use coupon code Anarchast, all caps, to get your Anarchapulco tickets. And I will see you there in less than a month. Charlie, we're going to have a blast. I'm really looking forward to it. Thanks for coming on the show today and hanging out.
Thank you for having me. If anyone is interested, I put out a podcast twice a week called Macroaggressions. It goes out once as a interview and once as a monologue. Had Tommy Chong on a couple weeks ago. We talked about making of the movie Up in Smoke, which was fun. And we normally just talk about, government fuckery. So you have a new book as well. I almost forgot. You want to tell us? Tell us about your new book. Hypocrisy: Surviving in a World of Cultural Double Standards. It is available on Amazon. It's a little bit funnier than the other ones. I had to bring in 400 footnotes into this book because there was so much insanity that I was writing about. I had to put a footnote so that you would know it was real, because otherwise you would think I was just making it up, talking about fining people for collecting rainwater in Oregon and being fined in San Francisco 4 times more money if your dog craps on the sidewalk than if you yourself crap on the sidewalk. So I had to make sure that when I was talking about where this government and societal hypocrisy was, that I wasn't just like not providing evidence, because it all sounded so crazy while I was writing it that I was like, people are just going to think I'm making this up. But I assure you, I'm not funny enough to make up half the stuff that's in there. So please check it out. It's available on Amazon, and it's good for waking up your normie friends. I bag on Trump just as much as I bag on the Democrats. I'm not on either of these sides. I went on a Trump leaning podcast and I sold a bunch of books, and then I started getting emails from them saying, "How dare you talk about Trump in the book?" and blah blah blah. Oh, I guess he got to the Trump part. You thought I was just going to shit on the Democrats? I'm equal opportunity, man. I go after all of them. So if you're on the red team or the blue team, you might want to pass on the book. But for the rest of you, might be worth a look. I'm looking forward to it. I'm definitely going to pick one up. All right, man. Thanks for coming on. We should have done this way earlier. And you're welcome back anytime. And let's do it, guys. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for hanging out in the comments. It's been a pleasure hearing you chat back and forth. We will leave it there. Remember, tomorrow on Disenthrall, we have a really cool show, a 3-way moral, legal, shitposty analysis of some ongoing news. It's going to be hilarious. Kinky. Oh, baby. Do you know James Freeman? If you don't, you should check him out. He is the most hilarious and I would say preeminent cop watcher. Yeah. He has an interview on Anarchast. You should totally watch it. It's really good. Okay. I'll watch it. All right, gentlemen. I will catch you guys later. Peace, love, and anarchy. And remember, the F in communism stands for food.